Hi, my name is John Garrison, and today I will be giving you a brief introduction to positive behavioral interventions and supports. Today we will be answering the following questions. What is positive behavioral interventions and supports, also known as PBIS? What are the key elements of PBIS? What evidence supports PBIS? And finally, I will end with my personal rationale for PBIS implementation. PBIS is a well-established, systemic, and data-driven approach to improving school learning environments. Its emphasis is on changing underlying attitudes and policies concerning how behavior is addressed. The key elements that I will be addressing today are the implementation and training team, school-wide behavioral expectations, and the three-tiered approach of the PBIS. Next is the implementation and training team, also known as the PBIS team. The PBIS team consists of approximately 10 members, and it is comprised of administrators, counselors, and regular and special education teachers. The PBIS team is the first to be trained, attending several days of training sessions with skilled PBIS professionals. Then the PBIS team is charged with training the rest of the faculty and staff at the school. The PBIS team is also responsible for establishing the school-wide behavioral expectations that will be implemented as a part of the PBIS. The school-wide behavioral expectations consist of 3 to 5 simple expected behaviors that are stated in a positive voice. This is a theme throughout the PBIS, an emphasis on what to do rather than what not to do. Some examples of the school-wide behavioral expectations might be safe, be kind, and be prepared. Though these expectations are decided by the PBIS team, some researchers have recommended that the team survey faculty and staff for their input prior to deciding these behaviors. In order to increase the likelihood of school-wide support for these expectations, it is important to set expectations that everyone agrees with and sees as necessary so that they will be more likely to promote these expectations and hold students accountable to them. Once decided, these expectations are taught and modeled to the students, both in the classroom and out in the common areas of the school, such as the cafeteria, hallways, playground, and restrooms. After the behaviors are taught and modeled, the students have the opportunity to practice them, while the teacher observes to ensure accurate demonstration of the behaviors. This process usually happens at the beginning of the year, but may be repeated periodically throughout the year. The school-wide behavioral expectations are also used to create a behavioral matrix, which indicates how students should demonstrate each of the expected behaviors in the various common areas of the school. The matrix is then displayed in all classrooms and common areas as a reminder to students of how they should behave in that area. For example, one of the behaviors in the cafeteria might be to clean up after yourself when you are done eating. Another example could be displayed in the hallway, describing how students should walk in the hallway. The final key element that I will be addressing today is the three-tiered approach of the PBIS. The first tier provides universal support. These are mildly intense strategies and practices that are implemented with all students. This could be as simple as reminding students of the expected behaviors that are listed on the behavioral matrix in that area of the school, or it might be behavior-specific praise statements that are offered to students when they are demonstrating the appropriate behaviors. The goal of Tier 1 supports is to be effective for at least 80% of the student population. Tier 2 is targeted support for the remaining 20% of the students, with more moderately intensive interventions being used. The goal for Tier 2 is that it would be successful in producing the expected behaviors in at least 15% of the student population, leaving Tier 3 for the last 5%. Tier 3 involves the use of high-intensity individualized interventions, strategies, and practices that are typically determined by some sort of functional behavior assessment. The functional behavior assessment serves the purpose of getting to the root cause of the influences of the behaviors exhibited by this last 5%. Then an individualized plan is created for each of these students, utilizing the Tier 3 supports to help correct that behavior. Now that we have a better idea of what PBIS is, how do we know it works? Research has shown PBIS implementation to increase on-task behavior. It has resulted in anywhere from 20 to 60% less discipline referrals being submitted to the office, and it has had significant positive effects on the number of suspensions in schools, the number of cases of bullying, positive effects on academic achievement, school climate, and even teacher efficacy. Considering the evidence and the effectiveness of PBIS implementation, here are some of the reasons I would like to see a PBIS system implemented in my school. The first reason is that the PBIS model helps teachers limit the number of behavior issues with students and therefore office referrals to those that are more serious. This allows other school personnel, such as administrators and counselors, to spend more time working with the students that perhaps need the most help and support. This leads into the second point, which is that these students who are in greater need, the PBIS seeks to get to the root cause of their behavior. As a Christian and an administrator at a Christian school, I desire to get to the heart of my students' issues. I don't just want the behavior to stop, I want them to experience transformation and freedom. But that will not happen if we only treat the symptoms and not the disease itself. Another reason I like the PBIS model is the emphasis on the positive, which will naturally lead to a more positive climate and learning environment for students. People need that 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio in their interactions with other people to achieve a generally happy outlook. This is more likely in a PBIS than with alternative forms of discipline that focus on negative behaviors and punitive measures for correction. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a better understanding of what a PBIS system is and the value of its implementation. On this slide, you'll find a couple useful resources for more information and tools concerning PBIS, as well as video testimonials from schools that have implemented PBIS.